Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Season 8 of the Choose UCalgary Podcast. Once again, my name is Karah, and in this episode, we are joined with Joel Dooley-May, the Assistant Registrar for Student and Enrollment Services at the University of Calgary. And today, we're going to be chatting through all things UCalgary awards, so stay tuned to learn more. Welcome to the Choose UCalgary podcast, Joel. To start us off today, I'm just going to have you tell me a little bit about yourself, so your position at the University of Calgary and how you support prospective students.
Sure. Again, I'm Joel Dooley-May, and I'm the Assistant Registrar for Student Financial Support here at the University of Calgary. So I look after a team of financial aid officers as well as award officers that do the administration for all merit-based funding for the institution for undergraduate and professional faculty students, and that includes scholarships, awards, prizes, and medals. And then my team also looks after all need-based funding, so that's bursaries and financial aid for the entire institution, whether or not you're undergrad, professional faculty student, or a graduate.
So I think we're just going to start off quick with the basics of scholarships.
Sure.
So what are the different categories of awards that the University of Calgary offers to incoming high school students?
Sure. So at the University of Calgary, we use the term awards as kind of an overarching term for all of our kind of funding models. So when we look at what we have things that are primarily selected based on academic merit. Those are scholarships. So those tend to be for our high achieving incoming students who have admissions averages of 95 or greater. They tend to be that. But then we also have awards, and awards have varying criteria. So it could be students who show a lot of community involvement, volunteering, or extracurricular activities at their school. And they might be eligible for awards, and the merit is not the key selection criteria. Then we also have bursaries, and bursaries are need-based, so it's based on financial need, and we follow what Alberta Student Aid does for need-based selection when it comes to financial assistance here in the province, and we pretty much have an equation where if your educational costs outweigh the resources that you have a need, so then you might be eligible for bursaries. Then we also have prizes, and prizes tend to be for upper year students, so somebody in third or fourth year, and it tends to be the best mark in an assignment or best grade in a class or best student in multiple different areas. So the selection criteria is pretty finite, and it's the top student in X kind of thing.
And then how many incoming high school students typically receive an award or scholarship or one of those incoming amounts of money at the University of Calgary?
Yeah, it definitely varies each year based on how many we have admitted and how many applicants we receive. But on average, it's around 1,500 students per year. But it can vary. We've had years where it's been 1,900, and we've had years where it's been 12. So it varies based on multiple different things. Sometimes we have more awards to give out than other years, and sometimes we just have more applicants, or we have more eligible students, and we try to disperse to as many eligible students as we can.
Nice, perfect. And then how much money is offered to incoming high school students on average each year?
Yeah, so overall, for undergraduate students specifically, when it's either first year, second year, third year, fourth year, or onwards, we give out over $20 million. It fluctuates a little bit, but it's usually around 21 for all, but for entering students, it's about 6. But that varies based on multiple different things. So yeah.
Yep, definitely. That's still quite a bit of money going to high school students.
Yep.
And then last question here, you kind of talked about this a little bit in that first question, but can you just explain to the listeners the difference between a scholarship, a bursary, and an award, and how students can qualify for each one?
In all of our applications, it's a fulsome application, so you don't just select an award, scholarship, or bursary to apply for. So when we run assessments, we're looking at everything. So as I said previously, scholarships are primarily based on merit. So that's for our students that are entering that have a really high admissions average. And then we have our bursaries the selection is primarily based on financial need. So those are the students who their costs outweigh their resources and they have a need. And then awards can be for those students. For an example, like this is outdated, but it was developed in the 1970s, and then we have an award for a non-smoker, right? And the majority of students are now non-smokers, so it's kind of interesting. And then we have awards that are for a student from Bowness, or a student that went to X high school, or a student that plays ringette, or is part of the Boys and Girls Club, or so those are the types of things that awards kind of highlight, right? So.
Okay. Nice, perfect. Now, kind of moving into the application process, because lots of prospective students have lots of questions about the application.
Of course. Yeah.
So how early can students apply for scholarships and awards?
Sure. Here at the University of Calgary, our award applications open on October 1st. So there's two distinct applications that entering students need to apply for. The first that I always highlight is our high school prestige awards application. So those are awards that are really high dollar values. So that's our Kennedy Scholars, which is $120,000, or our Richard and Lois Haskane Legacy Scholarship, which is $100,000, or even our Chancellor Scholarship, which is $60,000. I can list all of them, but I'm not going to. But I always recommend that students focus on that. When it comes to selection for that, the admissions average has to be 90% or above. So take note of that. It tends to be for our high achieving students, but this application I always say to focus on because it takes the most time to apply. Of our two applications, this application has essay questions, long answer questions, things that you have to be more thoughtful and really, really put some effort on promoting yourself and promoting what you've done out in and outside of the classroom. So I always say to focus on that. And then we also have our high school entrance awards application, which opens the same day, but the application closes later. So for the high school prestige award application, the application closes on December 1st. So you really only have a 2-month window to apply for that. So that's why I say to focus on that. But our high school entrance awards application, it's open until March 1st. So there's a lot more time. And if I was going to sit down and do both of them, if I just sat there and did them both, the high school prestige award would take a couple hours probably to complete, whereas the high school entrance award application takes, 10 minutes. So, yeah. So it's distinctly different. The high school entrance award application is a lot of yes/no questions and a lot of numbers to enter and some detail, but not quite the extent that the prestige award application is. Definitely. And it kind of makes sense because the dollar values are so high, and the selection is different for both. So for our prestige award application, we have a large selection committee that consists of faculty members and managers from other service areas. So it's quite a large committee and quite the commitment to review. And then for our high school entrance awards, the selection is objective. So we try to make it as objective as possible and use a system that actually can just tell us who the top candidate is, right? So.
Perfect. And now for both of these applications, how do students apply for them? So where would it be located?
Sure. The first step in applying for any awards is to apply for admissions. So you have to apply for admissions to be able to access your My UCalgary account, which some label as the student center as well, but I always call it the My UCalgary account because that's just me. But so once the student has, or the prospective student has access to their My UCalgary account, they can apply for awards. So they just have to go under My Financials, and then there's a red button that says Apply for Undergraduate Awards. And
nice
that takes students to the application center, and then they can apply there. There's sometimes some troubleshooting depending on the student category. For example, if you're a dual credit student, sometimes you come up as you wouldn't have access right away because you have post-secondary experience, but that gets converted. So we can get you access to that. So.
Yeah. And then I know lots of prospective students are always wondering what makes a standout scholarship application. So an application to the high school entrance or an application to the prestige awards.
I'll focus more on the prestige awards because that really is more subjective. So you have the ability to define who you are, what you've done, and what makes you better than your classmate who sits beside you. One thing I always explain is that you pretty much have to do that. You're without being egotistical, you're really showing and highlighting what makes you better than someone else in a way. So what our committee is really looking for is someone who will take what they've done in their high school or in their community and bring that to our campus as well. So we're really looking for well-rounded students who will actually make a really positive impact to the community here on campus. And that's one key thing that you'll hear from me if you do any information sessions with me or anything. It's all about impact and what you're going to bring here. Some of the questions will ask that distinct impact. So everything that you write has to show that there is an impact either on yourself or on your family or the people around you or your community in general. Impact is key. So if you're really stressing that, please do. The other thing we're also looking for is students who can collaborate. So being part of a campus community, you have to be able to collaborate and really work together to make our community better. And so we're looking for that as well. So what I always say is when you're writing and saying that you've done an activity, really explain how you've collaborated to make that goal and achievement happen. Don't just use a lot of I statements and I did this. But at the same time, don't always utilize a lot of we did this. So we want to know what your role was in that collective we achieving that goal, right? So
definitely. And then how can students set themselves up for success in high school to receive an award or scholarship as an incoming student? So maybe some examples of some of those clubs or community involvement that students can get involved with. I know that's something that we hear a lot from students. How can I be involved in the community? How can I be involved in my, high school's culture?
Primary always is focus on your academics. So, and it's not just for achieving award scholarships and bursaries, but your increased knowledge and study skills will help you be successful when you're at university. So that's the number one focus. And then from there, look into areas that you enjoy. You'll have a better impact and you'll achieve more by doing things you enjoy. So, for example, when I was in high school, I loved sports. So everything I did had to do with sports, and that was my extracurricular activity. I didn't do as much volunteering, but our committee will still look at those who are actively involved in athletics as just similar on the same vein as somebody who's a super volunteer. But if athletics aren't your thing, maybe it's being involved in student leadership. So are you part of your student council? Are you a rep? If that's not your thing, maybe you're more of an environmentalist. So volunteer with Green Calgary or volunteer with different groups in your community that might actually work on sustainability and climate change and different things. If you're very into your spiritual group, so maybe it's a religious place or something, you can volunteer there and support that. There's always opportunities for that, so you just have to really look at it. So yeah, reach out, communicate to others. Usually I know for myself, and I know for family that I have, is that sometimes you look at your peer group. What is your friend doing? Maybe you want to, because it's a lot more fun to volunteer or be involved in the community if you're doing it with your friend, right?
Definitely. So yeah, no, it's definitely super important to find those things that interest you, so then you can continue with them moving forwards.
Yeah, because if you don't like it, you're not going to continue.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, you want to make sure that it's something you enjoy.
Mark your calendars. The University of Calgary Open House is set to take place on October 28th, 2023 on our main campus. This is your opportunity to connect with over 40 faculties and services, explore different programs, and learn about UCalgary campus life. Register for this amazing event today.
And then just kind of moving on to any new scholarships that students should be aware of this year. I know that we have a few that are coming up, and if you want to speak to those a little bit more, that would be awesome.
Sure. We have a really exciting new initiative that's being launched for fall 2024, and it's what's called our First Generation Scholars Program. So it's not just monetary award, though, there's actually wraparound services that are part of it, and it's mentorship and different things like that. But when we talk about first-generation students here or first-generation scholars here at the University of Calgary, that's students who their direct family have never attended post-secondary, so never attended a college, university, a trade school, a private college, anything like that. So a lot of research has been done on those types of students, and they're the students that need a little extra support, but they're also a student population that really we need to break down barriers to have them have access to post-secondary and really be able to navigate and thrive and be a successful part of our community. So we're really focusing on that. It's actually one of the strategic goals in our new strategic plan here at the University of Calgary ahead of tomorrow, and with the goal that we're hoping to have the first term funded for all first-generation students by 2030. So for fall 2024, the monetary value will be $2,500. So it doesn't really get to there, but we're moving towards that. But there are all these wraparound services that are available that students can have access to that weren't there before. So.
That's a really cool initiative that we're kind of starting. And do you know where in the application it will be? Will it be in a prestige or a high school entrance award?
No, it's just in our high school entrance award application. So there'll just be a few questions that students will have to answer, and they're yes/no questions. And if they meet the criteria, then they'll be eligible for that award. So.
Exciting stuff. And then lastly, in the application section, just what is a common misconception about the awards application and process that you would like to debunk to prospective students?
Sure. There's a couple. A lot of students will go to our awards database or search for an award or see a highlighted award, and they'll want to apply for that specific award. Mm-hmm. We actually don't have that, so you have to apply for all of our awards in order to be eligible for that one, because we actually look at a fulsome review of your application to see what else you might be eligible for. Mm-hmm. So you might be looking at X award, and that's the one you want, but you might actually be eligible for something that's a higher dollar value, and we'll provide that to you first. So yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely. It's nice to have that one big application that kind of puts you into a bunch of different award categories, or those categories to receive funding from multiple different things that maybe you didn't think you were eligible for to start out with. So now kind of moving into the after application phase. So this is a common question that we have among high school students when talking about automatic awards. How soon will they know that they've received an automatic award if they don't get their final marks until the summertime?
So I didn't really touch on automatic awards before, but we do have 2 automatic awards that we have here at the University of Calgary. I'll just touch on those before I answer that question,
definitely.
If that's okay. We have our President's Admission Scholarship, which is $5,000, and that's for any student who has an admissions average of 95 or greater. And that could be either their admissions average at first, when they're first admitted, or it could be their final average. So if their final average is 95, they will still receive that. And then we have our IB scholarship, and that's for anyone who has an IB diploma score. So that's a full diploma score of 35 or greater, and that they would automatically get $2,000. When it comes to those whose admission isn't finalized until June, if your average is above 95, you'll receive it. The only caveat, though, is that if your average drops below 95, you will not receive it any longer. So you might have been offered it in November when you first got offered admission based on early admissions criteria, but if your final average goes below 95, unfortunately you're no longer eligible. So that's a good thing to know for students. So if you're admitted based on your highs or grade 11 grades, the expectation is that you maintain those for grade 12, right?
Yep, definitely. So, and then this is just kind of going into all of the different kind of awards and scholarship categories that we have. When will students hear back about a possible award or scholarship offer?
So for our automatic admission scholarships, they happen on an ongoing basis, usually around the beginning of December, and we do it at least weekly. So, so they'll hear that right away. For our prestige awards, selection is done in February and March, so you should know by the end of March if you've been offered that. For most of them, you'll hear this voice because I actually phone directly and try to have that conversation before you even get an email notification. For all of our high school entrance awards, the notification will be by the end of April at the latest. So students who are on the fence of coming and want to know if they've received a scholarship, award, or bursary before they have to make that decision to pay their admission deposit will know. So, yeah, before everyone will know if they've received a scholarship, award, or bursary before they have to make their May 1st decision. The communication is primarily based on email, and it would be their preferred email that we have in the system. So sometimes it's a UCalgary email if you've already kind of initialized and paid your admission deposit and everything. But it'll be, outside of that, it'll be the email that they applied with. So.
Perfect. Yeah. So keep an eye on your inboxes and your emails to make sure that you find that one if you get it. Now, just the last question here for us today. How can students get in contact with you if they have any questions about awards or scholarships?
Sure. There's really two different routes. I always recommend that students go to our website. It's very easy to find. It's just ucalgary.ca/awards. You can find everything there. We have highlighted awards. You can search our awards database. You can learn how to apply, multiple things like that. But if you want to get in contact with us, I always recommend it's best to talk to a person rather than try to just do things electronically. So please reach out to enrollment services here at the university. Again, you can go to the web and just go to ucalgary.ca/contact-registrar, and you'd be able to get to that. Or you can just come see us here in Hunter Student Commons. So, yeah.
Lots of different ways to kind of get in contact.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming on the Choose UCalgary podcast today, Joel. I really appreciated your time, and I'm sure all the prospective students listening love to hear about awards, so they probably appreciated it too. So thank you.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Season 8, Episode 3 of the Choose UCalgary podcast. Remember to follow us on Instagram at Choose UCalgary or on Facebook at University of Calgary Future Students. If you have any questions or have a topic you'd like to hear us talk about, send us a DM.